Every day, all across the US, huge plots of land are being cleared and new homes are being built. With the current housing shortage, this should be a good thing. But the way we build this new housing is going to have an impact on everyone's way of living, whether you live in a city, suburb, or rural area over the next several decades. And unless something changes, some places will be destroyed forever.
So Spot's mother abandoned him. And usually when sheep abandon their babies, there's something wrong with them. But I always try to save them no matter what.
This is Becky Ayesh, and she lives in a rural community called Old Miakka, located in Sarasota County, Florida. But she's worried for its future. The county had a boundary line in place to ensure all urban and suburban development happens on this land, and all of the land on this side is preserved as rural. However, the county recently started allowing suburban development to continue past the line, including a massive new suburban development that will encroach into Old Miakka.
And rather than try to celebrate the wonders of this historic rural community, instead they want to pave us over and make us urban development.
I asked her what that wonder of her community looked like, so she showed me around this place full of nature, animals, and beauty. It's truly a complete contrast from the generic sprawl that's being planned. And this itself is part of the issue. Growth isn't necessarily a bad thing. It brings economic activity and new opportunities. But developments need to be compatible with the areas where they're developing.
And they haven't even tried to say, well, okay, let's sit down. What could we do that we could do a development that would harmonize with this community, that would be part of the fabric of this community, that would be part of the growing of this community? No, they haven't done any of that. They said, this is what you're going to get. Too bad, so sad.
And this exact same style of endless single-family homes with yards and driveways is happening all over the country. But people like living in the suburbs. Not everyone wants to live in a dense urban area, and not everyone wants to live in the middle of nowhere. After all, they wouldn't exist if people didn't like living this way. So what's the answer here? Can these suburbs continue to grow while still preserving land? And can they be done in a way that's affordable for people and financially sustainable? Well, it's complicated. One of the biggest problems with this style of suburban development is it's kind of an illusion. Not literally, but economically. The thing is, all of these houses need roads, water, and sewer, and all of that infrastructure takes a lot of money to build and maintain. A lot of times, it takes these houses several decades to bring in enough tax revenue to cover the cost of the infrastructure. And that infrastructure doesn't always last several decades, meaning more money is required to fix it. In urban areas, they're able to generate much more tax revenue from the same amount of land. For example, these are two identical sized areas. One is in the suburbs and the other is in a city. They both have a road, water, and sewer lines, but all of these homes and businesses provide significantly more tax revenue to pay for it, while these homes provide much less tax revenue. On the other hand, rural areas don't require many services. Many rural areas have wells and septic tanks, eliminating the need for water and sewer services, and many rural roads are much smaller. This problem is fairly unique to building suburban homes in this way. But this isn't the only way to build suburban homes. We can build homes in a way that's more financially sustainable for local governments and can help preserve rural land by increasing density while still keeping a very suburban feel. However, many people in the suburbs live there because it isn't dense. But increasing density doesn't have to mean building a high-rise apartment building. Sometimes just changing the layout of how homes are built can have a huge impact on space. Take this street, for example. All of the houses on this side of the street were built differently than the houses on this side of the street. Right away, you might notice, these houses have garages and driveways, and these ones don't. Except they do, but they're behind the house built on an alley. This comes at the expense of a large backyard, although some of these houses still do have a small outdoor space in the back. And they all have a front yard uninterrupted by driveways and cars. These are all still decently sized single-family homes too, but this setup allows for double the amount of homes to be built compared to if they were built like the houses on the other side of the street. Homes can be smaller too. This development is all 1 and 2 bedroom homes under 1,000 square feet, for people who don't want or need a huge house. Not only does this gently increase density, but these homes have a multi-use path that allows for a safe and easy way to walk or bike to this mixed-use development. This development has apartments, townhouses, restaurants, shops, offices, and recreation, and it's done with small, safe streets. This development has 3 key aspects of more sustainable suburban living: a variety of housing types, mixed use, and pedestrian connectivity. It's important that all 3 of these are taken into consideration for new development. For example, just increasing housing density without diversifying how land can be used leads to large areas of isolated residential use. This benefits hardly anyone. People looking for privacy and isolation end up living right next to people, but people wanting amenities don't have any because they're surrounded by residential development. Or in this development, there's both a variety of housing with apartments and single-family homes, as well as stores and restaurants. But these large roads and parking lots make it difficult and unsafe to walk or bike. These apartments here are only 400 feet from this grocery store, but there's no connection through these trees here, meaning you have to go all the way around if you wanted to walk. This was not built with pedestrian connectivity in mind. Meanwhile, with developments like this that integrate all three of these aspects, someone living in this apartment is easily able to walk to any of these restaurants for dinner, and someone living in this townhouse can take a short bike ride on the multi-use path over to this park. But this development isn't perfect. While it's convenient for people living there, it's still fairly isolated. However, if this development became more common rather than the expanse of generic sprawl, it could create entire communities, interconnected in an efficient, safe, and convenient way. But do people even want that? After all, these big isolated subdivisions are incredibly common. But a lot of times it isn't what everybody wants, it's just what's available. Many people still want a single-family house, but don't want to worry about maintaining a lawn, or want to be able to walk to a restaurant, or just want a small, simple house. But if that option doesn't exist for people, it forces them to choose another option. This almost always boils down to two options, especially in the suburbs. Option 1 is the traditional large single-family house, and option 2 is the generic apartment for rent. So for those people that still want a house and they want to be a homeowner, option 1 is going to be a better match for their needs, even if it means they have to maintain a lawn, drive everywhere, and have more space than they really need. Imagine you're at an ice cream shop and there's only 2 items on the menu: a banana split and a single scoop cone. The cone might be fine for some people, but some people want more than that, so they go for the banana split. Some love it, but others might not have wanted that much and end up throwing some away. When you consider all of the variables that are part of a banana split, this might seem like a bit of a waste for someone who would have been fine with something else. But imagine the ice cream shop started serving milkshakes. These are perfect for people who wanted more than the cone, but didn't need the entire banana split. And now, not as many banana splits have to be made. This is the same for housing. Just because you might want to live in a single-family suburban home doesn't mean that building other housing types is going to take away your single-family suburban home. Instead, it opens up more options for more people. For some people, the status quo of American suburbs is all they're familiar with. Some people don't realize what it would be like to be able to bike to a restaurant for dinner because they're only used to being able to drive, and they think that walkability and density is a big city thing, not a suburb thing. But it can be a suburb thing, and it's possible to have really nice walkable places in the suburbs. But we'd have to change how we build, and in the process, it would allow us to grow the suburbs while preserving land, create more affordable housing options, and be more financially sustainable for local governments. So let's pretend we have 1,000 people moving to our city and we have to build a suburban development on this piece of land. If we follow existing development designs currently being built here in Sarasota County, we end up with a street network that looks like this, along with the required water retention ponds that handle runoff in Florida. We start building traditional large single-family homes and quickly fill up our land with houses. If we consider the average household size of 2.5 people in the US, this means we only have enough housing for 500 of the 1,000 people. So we have to buy more land, build more roads and utilities, and build more houses. Now we've housed all 1,000 people, but these people have nowhere to shop or eat, no parks, and no schools. So we need to either buy more land to build these things, or all of these people will have to drive to the existing places, creating more traffic on the existing roads. But if we change how we build, it would be a different story. Instead, let's start with changing the layout of our street network. Rather than winding streets optimized for isolation, let's instead optimize for connectivity and public space. We'll start with this area and treat it as a town center, building some mixed-use buildings. Buildings like these would provide places to shop, eat, work, and live. Next, we can build different types of housing. This could be things like duplexes, which have 2 dwellings per unit, cottage courts, which are small individual dwellings that share a common space, townhouses, which are a row of dwellings in a larger building, apartments, and a variety of detached single-family homes, including ones with front yards and garages in the back, and some traditional larger ones with big yards and driveways. While the average household size is 2.5 people, now that we have a wider variety of housing types, different size households can choose a housing type that might be a better match for their needs. For example, a single young adult might choose to live in a cottage, while a retired couple might choose to live in a townhouse, and a family of 4 might choose to live in a big house with a backyard. Taking this into consideration, we're able to redistribute our average household size categorized by housing type. And when we look at our entire development, we've managed to not only house all 1,000 people without having to buy any additional land, but we've also made space for shops, restaurants, and offices. In fact, we still have some room to spare. We can use this space for a school, parks, public pools, or more mixed use. Since we didn't have to purchase more land, all of that additional land purchased in the first example is able to remain untouched, whether that's natural wildlife habitat or productive farmland. And the local government doesn't have to pay for and maintain all of those additional roads and utilities that would have been built. This example uses 1,000 people and a small piece of land for the sake of simplicity to show this concept, but when you apply this same concept to the scale of some of the massive developments going in with several thousand acres, this can equate to huge differences in terms of land saved. And keep in mind, this is still very much a suburban development. Sure, it'd be possible to fit 10,000 people into the same amount of space and would be much more efficient, but that would make this feel much more like a dense urban setting. And the reality is, many people don't want to live in that level of density. In this example, almost half of the people living here would still be living in detached single-family homes. Everyone can still own a car, with all of the homes having garages or dedicated parking spaces, but it would also be easy to get around by walking or biking. And for those driving around a development like this, the streets would be designed in a way to encourage slow speeds and be significantly safer than many of the high-speed roads common in the suburbs. It's always fascinating to rethink how land can be used because it uses problem-solving skills and creativity, and there's a free and interactive way to use those skills to learn new concepts in math, science, engineering, and data, with the sponsor of this video, Brilliant. Brilliant is where you can learn interactively by doing hands-on activities and courses related to things like modeling data, thinking in code, or exploring the world of AI. With thousands of lessons, you'll find something that's tailored to your interests and skill level. When you sign up, you take a quick quiz and you're automatically matched with courses that fit your skill level, so you don't have to worry about it being too easy or too difficult. A key part of problem solving is thinking like a problem solver, and one course I've found interesting lately is the scientific thinking course. It engages you with aspects of our physical world with key scientific principles and theories, from interacting with simple machines like gears and pulleys to building bridges. These hands-on lessons can help you sharpen up some of your problem-solving skills that you can add to your daily routine in a fun and productive way. You can begin this lesson or one of the thousands of other lessons free for 30 days by visiting brilliant.org/streetcraft or click on the link in the description. And you'll get 20% off an annual premium subscription for being a Streetcraft viewer. If you want to start a new and productive habit that will teach you new things tailored to what you find interesting, go check out Brilliant. With this type of development, it would still feel like the suburbs, but with a small town feel. And it turns out, this kind of development was actually the original plan for expanding the suburbs in Sarasota. When developers were looking to begin building on rural land, the county put together a plan to prevent overdevelopment of generic suburban sprawl and protect the character of these natural areas by creating these small villages and maintaining the rural open space around them.
It was intended to be environmentally friendly, economically self-sufficient. It wouldn't stress municipal budgets.
This is Kathy Antunes, a longtime Sarasota activist and radio host.
Before developers could leverage themselves, before we had automobiles, development was built always in a way where it was financially sustainable immediately. And if you think about how did towns in the United States develop, they had the town part, which was like a main street, a mixed-use stores with apartments overhead, a place where people come and gather and walk, go to restaurants, and then the rest was rural. It was, farmland and places where people worked the land.
And this is what the plan was trying to get back to. But as developers continued building, the plan was essentially ignored.
It was completely gutted by our county commission. They believed developers who fund their campaigns that this wasn't economically viable, which is ridiculous. I mean, hundreds of years, this is the model that's worked.
But despite this, developers have continued to build what they want to.
They don't want to change their development model. Why should they? They can basically get the county commission to do what they want. They make a lot of money and people are buying it, but the community winds up holding the bag on the long-term cost.
The thing is, these developers don't have to maintain this infrastructure over time. They can get their money and move on to the next new development, leaving the local government stuck with tons of new infrastructure they'll have to maintain. This might be fine right now since it's all brand new, but if local governments allow development to continue like this, eventually something will have to happen. This could lead to a few different outcomes. First is that the infrastructure begins to fall apart. Second is that budget cuts happen to other vital aspects of running a city. Or finally is that taxes increase for residents to pay for it. This is truly one of the only ways suburbs like this can exist and be financially sustainable. In most suburbs built like this, people living in these developments aren't being taxed enough to pay for the services required. Of course, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but this is an economic reality if you continue to build more infrastructure. So what if we don't build more infrastructure in the first place? Instead, we can rethink how we use the land where the infrastructure already exists, and it can be done in a way that increases housing without completely changing the fabric of existing neighborhoods. This example in Sarasota built 357 units, primarily as townhouses and apartments, in a spot previously occupied by an underutilized shopping center and an abandoned warehouse, all close to downtown and right on a multi-use rail trail that runs through the county. Adding more housing doesn't just have to be on big plots of land either. Many cities have begun allowing accessory dwelling units, or ADUs. These allow for more people to live on an existing property by adding something like a small backyard cottage, converting a garage, or converting part of an existing house into an additional unit. Typically, this is illegal due to zoning restrictions that only allow one single-family residence per lot, but those restrictions are changing in some areas, increasing housing supply in a smart and efficient way. Sarasota County started allowing ADUs a few years ago, allowing them to increase density on already developed land. However, many neighborhoods are controlled by homeowners associations which follow their own set of rules and almost always don't allow ADUs. The more that is built like this, the less land that has to be cleared for new development, and the less infrastructure that will have to be maintained by the local government. And the county knows this. So why are they still allowing more development that will end up draining their budget?
I mean, we need a different set of values at the county commission. And honestly, that's not going to come from people who are plucked to serve the needs of developers. We need homegrown candidates who are committed to a good, prosperous, strong, financially sound community long term, not just in, a few weeks. We need a more educated electorate. A lot of people walk into that voting booth and they think, like, if you're for fiscally responsible candidates, people assumed, I think that's changing, that meant the Republican Party, and Sarasota has a Republican Party majority. Very often, just because someone has an R by their name, they may be the last person that's actually fiscally responsible.
This is why it's so important to do research on who you're voting for so you can vote for people who actually represent your interests.
We need to really start and begin with valuing the importance of local government. If you care about the environment, all of these land use decisions, most of them are local. If you really want to save the environment, you need to know what your city is doing and what your county is doing, because that's where the rubber meets the road.
As suburban growth continues, both in Sarasota County and all over the country, it's crucial that we have the right leadership that shares the value of smart and responsible development. And when that happens, we can change what the American suburbs look like. This goes so much further than just housing, too. It will affect how we build roads, our sense of community, convenience, and more, all of which you can learn about in this next video. And be sure to subscribe to see more videos like this.